Hello all you beautiful people, and welcome back to the channel. This is an introduction to the S22. If you see, this one is about 2 inches taller than this one, and that is because you can adjust the suspension geometry. If you look right here, this screw set there on that bracket, there is 2 little holes down at the bottom, 3 above it, and you can actually adjust the suspension for this rear linkage part up and down that channel there, making the wheel have more suspension travel in here or less. So for those that want a longer suspension travel, you can adjust those up 3 notches. For those that want a shorter suspension travel or an easier wheel to step on, you can see the difference here in the pedal height. Then you can actually lower that down. This is the first wheel that I have personally seen with suspension. The S18's there, the Hero, the Master I owned. You cannot actually do this, so that is one of the very, very cool things that you get with the S22. A few other things to note. The seat here is pretty uncomfortable. It is very thin, and because of its rounded profile, you don't have a whole lot to sit on, and you do sit on this plastic here, which you feel through that pretty easily. I like sitting and riding on this wheel, but it's not the most comfortable. One thing to note here is this rubber piece. This is the updated little piece that Kingsong provided to prevent this handle from being floppy. It kind of hinders pushing this handle, which is the kill switch, all the way up and seated, but as you noticed, as soon as you flip it up, it does recognize it, so it doesn't have to be fully seated, but that rubber does hold it from loosely falling off, which this wheel does not actually have that piece, which is funny because I opened them up on the same day, but that is their fix from the floppy handle. Something else to note on these wheels, I did do a video on the sealing on the upper board here. This piece has 2 screws here, which the red part comes off, 1 more screw, these screws back here, and then that plastic cover comes off. The seal goes all the way around the entire thing, and it is very nice seal, way better than that wheel there, those wheels there, the Master, etc. The tail light on here, as you can see, is an RGB, and you can actually control that in the app, which is very nice. The seat does cover up all of the screw holes, which is also very nice. Some people complain about, oh, well, the screws go through the board, so you risk water ingress there, but with the cover on here, which you're going to have 99.9% of the time, it's very unlikely you'd get water in there in the board with that seal. This did come with Velcro, but as most of you know, this foam, nothing really sticks to it very well. You could see one piece already came off. This is my Velcro. I did acetone this foam, and it still does not stick. The screen reads out in kilometers per hour, which is, okay. I don't really use it. A few people have also mentioned that it's hard to see when you're standing on it because it's so far back. I don't personally have a problem when I look down to see it. I know where it's at. I look down, it's there. Another thing to note is the button here underneath. When you stand the wheel up, it is in an actually a very good spot here to reach in, even with the handle down, to turn it on and off, and it's a good grab point to grab it, hold it down, turn it off, rest the wheel back. The kickstand here is also very nice. I do like this kickstand and its adjustability. When you set it down, even if it's folded back like this, the wheel will automatically push it out and rest on it. It is a much better kickstand than the Master. It is significantly better than the Hero. This is the best kickstand I have witnessed on a wheel. As you can see there, very sturdy. The handle here is very stiff. It's very nice. It sounds like it locks up, but when you start to trolley the wheel, it does come down very easily, and it's actually way easier to trolley this wheel backwards than it is forward, just because of where the handle is located and how the wheel is balanced. The suspension here is very nice, a very long suspension travel. It is still the 750-pound coil. Off-roading this, it is extremely bouncy. I have tried adjusting the rebound and the dampening, and it's bouncy. I mean, I tried everything from the middle on both to fast on one and slow on the other, and it is an extremely bouncy wheel. If you were to jump it, it's very cushy. You go off curbs, it's very cushy. When you're off-roading and hitting continual little bumps, rocks, divots in the ground, whatever, this wheel is about as bouncy as that Hero over there when it had the air shock without rebound on it. Not a huge fan of it so far. I'm gonna keep adjusting it. I'm hoping that it gets better, but as it sits right now, the coil shock on that S18 over there that just has the dampening, or the rebound, not the dampening adjustment, performs quite a bit better than this shock here. I don't know if it's because of the geometry on the suspension. I don't know if, maybe this is faulty, but I have adjusted this and you can feel the difference when you get on the wheel, but it is very bouncy off-road. I do not care for it. The tail light is very bright. It is noticeable during the day and at night. The headlights themselves are also very bright. The best headlights I've seen on a wheel personally, and a few people have complained that they're loose. If you hear that, that is pretty stiff. There's actually metal teeth and a little metal bracket underneath there that adjusts them. If you push it down, it's actually spring loaded. You can hear the teeth aren't really there, but if you don't, the teeth are there. And the screw here, you can lock it into place. In a severe crash, I can see, because the way they stick out, you could hit them, but I would say it's pretty unlikely to break these off unless you're really bad off-roading and getting in a bad accident. The handle here so far, very sturdy, very nice to grab onto, but the front cover piece, you can see here, it's only held in by two clips, one about here, one about here, and I noticed almost every time I go to pull it out of my car, because of the weight, when you grab it and twist, you actually separate these two pieces, and I constantly have to smack it to kind of lock it back in place. The button underneath is very nice. It's very easy to get to. When you're holding the wheel, it's almost a natural spot to grab and turn on the headlight or turn the wheel on and off. I do, however, accidentally hit that button all the freaking time when I go to pick up the wheel, move the wheel, take the wheel out of the car, etc. The boomerangs here, some people don't like. I actually haven't had a problem with them as far as adjusting the pads and where they need to go based off the boomerang. If you remove it, there's actually a set of screw holes lower and higher. So I moved mine higher just so I could have a little more clearance here, because I do wear a size 13 shoe, and I did put Velcro on the back of the foam pads because they just had 3M. There was actually no 3M on the little plastic pieces that are supposed to support the backs here. I really enjoy this lower pad. I think that this cutout is very nice, but the way it is, you have to have this pad just perfect in order for it to be comfortable. If it's slightly too far back, this digs into you. If it's too far forward, this digs into you. But it's really easy to kind of just peel it off and slide it along the guide and get it just right. The pedals, again, first wheel I've ever come across that has this. See this notch here? You could actually bring the pedal forward that inch or so, inch and a quarter, based off of that notch. There's a free one here. This holds the plastic piece. That's actually what holds the pedal up. So when you bring the pedal back, that piece actually gets moved into this slot because this slot is on the pedal hanger itself. The pedals can go up and down very slightly, not a whole lot. It's like a half inch, quarter inch of movement. Don't know the point of that. These pedals, when you take them off, are extraordinarily light. I mean, I don't know if they're CNC or cast, but if these are cast, they are scary light. Like, as light as this plastic or the foam, it's quite scary. I would be scared to do a jump and these not shatter if they are not CNC. So food for thought on those. They're light. There is something to note. There's a set screw here and a set screw hole in this back one. And if you actually move the pedals forward, you can see the notch in the rod here, just like the S18s, is not where the set screw is actually supposed to be. So if you move this forward, you actually have to take that rod and flip it 180 degrees so the hole in this one lines up with where the set screw is, because you can see here, mine's not set in there, which is not good. Sorry for the coughing. I am recovering from being sick. The other negative with this wheel that I have noticed is the valve here. You cannot get a pump on there. I could barely push it with my finger. I have to get a screwdriver in there, bend it up to get a pump on there to pump it up. No matter the tire inner tube you get for inside of here, you're gonna run into that issue. It's not so much Kingsong's fault, it's not this fault, it's the clearance here. So they're not gonna redesign that. This wheel will probably forever have that issue. If they do get an inner tube with enough bent valve, if you pop that tube and you get a new one, you'll probably run into this again. This tire is a very nice tire compared to the CST that comes on the Hero and the Master. It is a flatter profile. It is very wide tire. It sticks out more than the rim, which is quite impressive. Off-roading this at 40 PSI was absolutely terrifying. Sorry about that, my camera died. The Go-Tos do a really good job, but they overheat when they're not actually in action. The tire is really good at about 28 to 32 PSI. Anything above that off-roading, it is very bouncy, it's very skippy, and it kind of launches you around when you side clip rocks. So I have it about 40 for on-road purposes. I put it at less than 30 on off-roading purposes. The other thing to note on this wheel is it does have a lot of power. It is nothing like the Master. It doesn't have the speed of the Master, but it does have that power. When I took it to the same super steep mountain bike trail roads today that I've taken the S18s, the Hero, the Master, and the RSTs up, this did better than the Hero. It did better than the RSTs. Not quite the same as the Master, but it did do a really good job. I mean, for a 220-pound rider and having a wheel is capable of taking you up, you know, a 1,500-foot incline that's a mile long, this wheel has no problems doing it at all. The comfort of the pad here is nice for off-roading purposes. I prefer something a little wider because there's not a whole lot to lean on. This locks you in very well, so that was nice. It helps keep you a lot more stable. The pedals, even with the foam on, close just fine, which is very nice, and they're very stiff. They don't flop open. Best pedals, best closing mechanism I've ever had on a wheel. It is a plastic piece, but it's kind of rubberized, so I don't think it's going to get brittle and break over time like others have said it can. It's, you know, it's nice. It does a good job. It does go upward, so if you do take the pedals off to adjust them, do note that it doesn't match the shape of the hanger, which rounds down. It curves up, and that helps keep the pedal up. If you flip it backwards, so it rounds down, it still holds the pedal, but not as well. So if that piece falls out when you pull the rod out, do note it curves this way. The tire, I do like. It is wide. It's very wide compared to the CST tire. It's not as easy to turn on this guy, but it does do a really good job. The knobs were grabbing and flinging rocks like nobody's business today. The pedal height is very high. It does not feel as tall as the Master. It is probably an in-between on the Hero and the Master, but it is high, which is nice that you could bring these pedals down and you could bring that suspension geometry down. Build quality so far, this thing is an absolute chonk. I mean, it's a beast. The only thing that I've complained about is the seat, and this handle is, you know, it's nice. It's a good point to grab, but at the same time, when it's underneath the seat, you don't really have anywhere in the back to grab other than the lower suspension. And when the wheel's in my car laying flat, this isn't a point to grab. When you're upright, it's not really a good area to grab, but all of this, you know, you're not going to get pinched in here picking it up. And this is a really good point if you needed to. This is only a point if you get it to flip backwards. So, you know, if you don't put it in the kill mode all the time, you don't really have two spots to grab it, which is a little odd. I do hit this button all the time and inadvertently turn on the wheel. It only takes a quick click to turn it on, but you have to hold it down to turn the wheel off. So far, you know, all around, it is a very nicely built wheel. It has very nice taillights. The shock, you could see all of the space in here, unlike the Master. You could upgrade this to whatever you would like. There was quite a bit of loose screws when I got this wheel and the other one. I made a video of that wheel making a god-awful grinding, whining noise, and I tightened this screw, that screw, this one, and this one, as well as a bunch of the battery screws here. So I'm not really sure which screw fixed the issue, but it definitely did. It had to have been something along here because it was a metal on metal noise. These screws were tight. These screws were tight. The suspension geometry screws in the back were very tight. All of these ones were fine. These ones were fine. The ones above the board were fine. So the bottom battery screws and all of the suspension linkage screws were loose. Even the kickstand was fine. Even the kickstand screws that hold it on were fine. The mudguard in here, if you look above here and all in here, there's a little bit of dust, but there's nothing in there. This mudguard is amazing. The Master mudguard, I had crap all over the shock. There was crap underneath it. I mean, it was just an absolute mess. On the Hero here, you could see in here, it's all clean because this metal piece underneath where the shock is basically protects all of that area, which is very nice. So this one is a lot better built like the Hero, and with the options you get from adjustable headlights to how bright these actually are at night, which are amazing, to the tire itself, the padding, you know, the forward adjustable pedals, the size of these pedals, the kickstand, the shock you get, the geometry of the suspension being adjustable, as well as how nicely powder coated this is, how wide and beefy that is, the tail light on it. I mean, even the foam on this is better. The Master, for its price, just is not a wheel that's worth it. If you were looking at getting one of these wheels, I would say, hands down, don't hesitate, pick one up. There has been nothing wrong with either one of these. I'm at 28.8 miles on this one, and I'm still at 70% charge. I mean, that's an average speed of like 15 miles an hour because I've been riding around with a lady, but that's way better than the Master P42. That's even better than the Hero. It's better than my S18s, obviously, but this wheel has been performing non-stop. It's just good. You know, not a whole lot of miles on it so far, but having nearly 30 miles and having 70% battery left at 15 miles an hour, that's incredible. The screen on it is okay. It's really cool, but it's in kilometers still. I hope they make an update so it's in miles per hour. People have a hard time looking down and seeing it. I do not. It might be, you know, somebody 5'6" versus me being almost 6'2". The trolley handle comes up very easily. It goes down very easily. You know, it's smooth, it's stiff. It's also a really good handle if it's down for a grab point. I've never actually reached in here by accident and turned the wheel off. So it's more or less accidentally hitting that button and turning the wheel on. The battery packs are metal. That is a lot better than the Master. The wheel itself, you know, the design is really cool. It's very sharp. I actually split a nail in half by sliding it along there, trying to get to that bent valve in there that's pressed against it. But all in all, you know, this is an amazing wheel for the price. What you actually get, the work that they put into it, the seal atop the board, it's amazing. I mean, it's a really good wheel. It's, you know, you could adjust those down, tighten it. You got the nice trolley handle. You got several other handles. The Master didn't have anywhere to pick it up. There was really not a place. This guy here, you could reach underneath and grab it. You got the handle. You got below the suspension right here. You know, it's got some spots, but this is just very easy to handle wheel, very well balanced. When you go to step off it when you stop, even though it's heavier, it actually seems very balanced against your leg. So I've had the least amount of problems stepping off this wheel and keeping it upright. It's very good. It's a good wheel. As far as, you know, any complaints about it, this is probably my biggest issue. From seat and riding, it's too thin. There's not enough support here, and it's just uncomfortable. It floppies down in the back even with the handle up because it passes the handle, but where your weight sits on the wheel, you don't sit back there. So for people that complain about that, your ass isn't that far back, stop complaining about it. Plus, in order to get the wheel to go, you have to lean your weight over the wheel anyways, so having this come up and be floppy is not actually a problem. The thickness of it and how stiff it is a problem for me. I don't have much butt going on, and that is uncomfortable. So as far as the wheel goes, zero problems. This is something to note with the rod, flipping it backwards. You know, the suspension is very bouncy. I have not been able to get it absorb bumps easily as far as road riding goes or off-roading goes, but you know, you get on it and it sags, and it's soft and cushy when you go off curbs and things, but normal riding and a lot of impacts, it is bouncy. So between the shock and the seat, that's about it. I hope this covers everything on the wheel. I hope you guys enjoyed the video on this. The pads are great, the adjustability is great. I have no problems with the boomerang. If there's anything I missed on this or anything you want to know, please comment, please subscribe and ring that bell. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a beautiful day, you beautiful people.